Por que brasileiros querem trabalhar tanto em empresas estrangeiras hoje em dia? Eu vou responder essa pergunta para você hoje, mas eu vou responder de uma forma diferente, desafiando o seu listening. Alright? Yes, it's going to be in English. So let's go. Well, we have many different factors. Some of them are very obvious, but I think the best one is people want stability. They want to stand out because working for an international company obviously gives you more prestige in the process, right? And of course, globalization is here and it has come to stay. You don't necessarily have to travel to work in an international or foreign company. We have home office, we have Zoom, we have Teams, we have Google Meets. So that means we can pretty much reach anywhere we want in the world. Of course, there's a time zone, right? That could be complicated. Maybe you have to undergo a meeting in the middle of the night, but it works. It just means that you are no longer limited by geography, for instance. And another thing, of course, Brazilian professionals, they are quite adaptable. So that is a big plus and a main reason why so many foreign companies actually hire Brazilians. This is a phenomenon that existed before, but it was quite rare. And as time went by, many other foreign companies started coming into the country. So they became more open to hiring more Brazilians as it's made easier. As a company, you have a cost sending somebody overseas or to other countries. So that is no longer the case. So it is profitable and it fits the budget of every company that wishes to hire a Brazilian. The reasons I hear about the most for people wanting to work in foreign companies, and most especially Brazilians, of course, is, well, reason number one, it's money, right? They pay better. There is the advantage of the currency exchange as well, right? Depending on the company you work for, you can receive in dollars or you could receive in euros even, not necessarily in reais. There's another thing that is a key factor most people are preferring nowadays, which is professional growth. So there is a bigger chance of career growth and development in foreign companies compared to national companies, let's say. Of course, if you disagree with me, you're more than welcome to comment below. All right. If you work for an international company and you do home office, that can help a lot in the home work-life balance. So that's a great benefit as well. That begs the question, is it mostly about the money? Well, it depends. I would say 80% yes, based on the history of my students and the peers I work with. Think like this: money brings stability. Stability reduces stress. So it's a chain reaction, really. If you receive in another currency, so this exchange will bring you better stability, thinking medium long term. Consequently, it will affect your cost of living, right? You won't have to spend as much. Your purchasing power improves, meaning you're not necessarily going to buy more products, but you're going to buy better products. That financial stability will provide you with better long-term planning, meaning if you're single at the time, you start working in a foreign company, you can plan better to decide whether you get married or whether you have kids or how many kids you plan to have or which house you want to live in. Do you want to live in a big city? Do you want to live in the countryside or maybe at the beach or maybe in a different country altogether? I mean, you open up your branch of possibilities there, and this is great. Obviously, this exchange rate facilitates the purchasing if you live in Brazil. Unfortunately, our currency here is not as powerful as dollar or euro or even pounds. That makes it easier if you want to plan a trip, of course, right? If you wish to maybe go to Europe and you're receiving in euros. Wow, I mean, you won't have to think about the exchange rate from real to euros. Therefore, you'll be able to make better choices of trips and places to visit. That, in consequence, will give you a great psychological relief, and this is awesome. So, metaphorically speaking, it's not about earning more, it's about breathing easier. Yeah. I think that stability and working in a foreign company will automatically will favor your confidence. It will increase your decision-making confidence It will increase your negotiation power, which I think is great, both with your boss or with clients or anywhere else if you're maybe looking for another job even. And this security, this working in a foreign company, changes your posture completely. You are more worried if you need money, so that affects your confidence automatically. Now, talking about the cultural differences, this is something very important, and I usually try to bring that up whenever I'm teaching students of mine. I try to make them understand that this cultural difference, for instance, if you're working with an American person or British or even German, American and German are more straight to the point. So there's no beating about the bush. For instance, when you're in a meeting here in Brazil, you always start the meeting off like breaking the ice and you're going smoothly into a subject. Hey, how's it going, guys? How was the weekend? Everything all right? Oh, Sheila, are you feeling okay? What happened? So you always want to start off the meeting slow. While it's good for morale, and I kind of support that, sometimes you don't want to extend a meeting. And that's exactly what Americans and Germans have in mind. They just want to get straight to the point, sort out what the problem is or the goals for the day or the week are, and just get on with their lives, And Brazilians, they do have to get used to that in the process. Obviously, the communication style changes, so you have to learn how to talk less indirectly, for instance. You have to just cut to the chase in your words as well. Something interesting I like about Brazilians working in foreign companies is how Brazilians see hierarchy. It's not that we disrespect hierarchy, it's just that the flat structure is more common, meaning Brazilian employees will question their bosses more. And one of my students worked for a Mexican company, and his bosses were always very, very angry or shocked by the fact that their inferiors in the vertical ladder of hierarchy, right, questioned them every time a decision was given to them, because they pointed out possible problems, which was completely valid in my opinion. But they didn't care. It was more about the hierarchy factor of things. There's also the fact about transparency and feedback. I think being transparent has become something more global nowadays, according to all the students I teach and the feedback I get from them on the places they work. However, there is something specific about feedback. Brazilians don't take feedback the same way foreigners do. For instance, German people, right? So there is a certain conflict there. I think German people or American people, they have to learn how to deal with Brazilian people better, because that can generate some kind of friction and negative outcomes, because it's my understanding that Brazilian people usually get hurt more easily when it comes to feedback. So you have to do like a sandwich, right? Like 5 compliments and put some constructive criticism in the middle for the feedback to work here in Brazil. While in other countries, it's obviously not that way. It doesn't work that way. This is interesting because when it comes to British culture, there's a lot of sugarcoating. But in most of other languages and cultures, we want to do less sugarcoating and less indirect language as well. So you should favor more clarity, in other words. And of course, it doesn't mean you're rude. It just means more efficient. This is really cool because I think Brazilians are easier to work with when it comes to other languages and cultures and peoples. Brazilians are culturally relational because we're a melting pot of different cultures in here, right? There is an adjustment period there. Brazilians, they do have to adjust, and sometimes I would say a lot. But at the end of the day, Brazilians are highly adaptable. However, emotional intelligence always helps. That counts in a lot. Now we come to the good old question, how important is English, right? I always tell my students, English doesn't require perfection, even though it's necessary. Meaning clear communication does not necessarily mean better English grammar. It's not about sounding native, it's about being understood. Believe me, I have been teaching for 16 years and I have a lot of students that stopped in an intermediate or upper intermediate level, meaning Their English is not perfect. However, they can communicate highly efficiently because they understand what is necessary, which is what I just said, clear communication. When it comes to working in a foreign company, for Brazilians specifically, there is that age-old question again. Why do Brazilians fear speaking? Well, the school model we learned in, so it's something cultural, it's in our background, it's in our backbone, right? We focus mainly on grammar and we lack speaking practice. We don't have to use English on our day-to-day. You could say we could use movies or TV shows to learn English, but no. Most of the American movies we watch, or foreign movies for that matter, are dubbed. So we don't put an effort in actually learning or trying to practice our listening in this process. There's also the fear of judgment, right? That generates insecurity. Therefore, it generates closure, right? You just close yourself because you're insecure. And there's that good old cultural perfectionism. We want to be perfect in our heads before we say it out loud. So if I had to choose perfect English or clear communication, I would definitely choose clear communication. You know the correct words, you just have to put them in a way it provides confidence in the process. It gets the message across. You feel understood by others. I think that's priority number one. In whatever you're doing, you could be a trainee, you could be a coordinator, you could be a junior manager, a senior manager, or even in the board. If you make your communication clear, you won't need perfect English. Simple as that. And of course, when it comes to global companies, adding a little bit, a sprinkle, I would say, of your personality there goes a long way. You know, and what happens to a Brazilian employee that is working in a foreign company? I mean, how does that change your perception of the world? Well, you are automatically exposed to other cultures, which is fantastic. You learn a little bit every day, I would say. It gives you a broader overview of the world, meaning we can understand better and in firsthand what is happening around the world, from different eyes. That in turn will provide you with better professional maturity, that's for sure. I mean, that has no price really, you know, that's something you can pass on to your children, to people around you, and this is just awesome. That can also lead to increased ambition, meaning you will always want more. Maybe you will find a different vocation or a different calling, you know, to work in a different company, in a different area, sector, completely different. I don't know. And therefore, it will change your identity altogether, which is good, right? I mean, it doesn't have to change completely, but it can improve. So, you know, it's a win-win at every turn, I would say. My advice to someone who's stuck in English, you know, developing their language and communication skills is, again, focus on communication, not perfection. That's number one, okay, always. There's a saying in English, it goes, fake it till you make it. And I think that is pure golden. You know, eventually you will get there. Practice speaking early, get feedback. I mean, not only get it, but ask for it and be prepared to take it, because maybe people will not say nice things. Maybe they will be too harsh, too negative, but you have to learn how to take that feedback in. Anyways, you have to distill it. Yeah. You can simulate meetings, which is always good, right? Like you can picture in your head what is going to happen, what person X is going to say, what person Y is going to answer, right? You can always anticipate stuff, which is great. And don't think of mistakes as something bad. You know, everybody makes mistakes. Mistakes are part of what makes you grow, right? This is always good. Don't be afraid of that. I think this trend will keep growing because based on my experience and what is happening in the market, believe me, I do some interpretation in a lot of different companies in different sectors. And I see this happening a lot, more and more companies coming in and hiring Brazilian people. Remote work is becoming normalized. Yes, more and more people and companies are requesting their employees to go back to the office. However, remote work still exists. International hiring is cheaper for the companies, right? So yes, they may pay in dollars, but they will pay a little bit less than what they're paying over there, right? So there's that. Though we have a lot of Chinese companies coming in, and Chinese is basically being widely spoken around the world. Well, mainly in China, of course. English is still the lingua franca, meaning it's still the main language globally. So don't give up on it. And it is easier than Chinese, I promise you that. And borders are becoming optionals, and, and communication is not. Ok, guys, espero que vocês tenham gostado, espero que vocês tenham entendido tudo, obviamente, right? Joga um comentário aqui se você curtiu e sugere um próximo tópico para eu fazer em inglês aqui, alright? See you later, bye bye!